The forbidden gene. The desert had secrets. Beneath the bleached sands of Nevada, past chain-link fences and warning signs weathered by time, lay a vault of truths no one was supposed to remember. Officially, Area 51 was decommissioned. Unofficially, it breathed with quiet paranoia and forgotten science, pulsing like a thing half alive. Dr. Lyra Rhone walked its corridors alone now. His ID badge still unlocked the biometric doors. No one had thought to revoke access. Not after the scandal, not after the project was shut down, not even after the files were sealed under presidential order. Perhaps they assumed he wouldn't return. They were wrong. He descended to sublevel D, where the hum of cryogenic containment units greeted him like an old friend. Lights flickered overhead. Time and dust had crept into the cracks of the place, but one chamber glowed steady, pristine. Inside floated Specimen V. Not a corpse, not quite a life form either. Suspended in viscous blue gel, Specimen V's gray-green skin shimmered faintly beneath layers of transparent membrane. Slender limbs ended in four-fingered hands. Its eyes, almond-shaped and sealed shut, still made Elias uneasy, as if it could see without seeing. He placed a hand on the glass. "They called you a freak," Elias whispered. "But you were the key. The answer we didn't deserve." Years ago, Project Chimera had promised to unlock the future. By analyzing the alien's genome, they believed they could integrate its regenerative capabilities into human DNA. The implications were staggering: immunity to disease, cellular repair, functional immortality. They tested on animals first, then embryos. That's when things turned dark. Bioethicists raised alarms. Senators demanded accountability. The media caught wind. And then came the child. Elias hadn't waited for permission. He had been a father drowning in grief. His wife taken by a sudden aneurysm when their daughter, Lyra, was only 3 months old. With trembling hands and a vial of modified alien DNA. He made a choice. He never told anyone. Not the board, not his team, not even his assistant. The lab fire that destroyed his samples was no accident. It was cover. And Lyra grew. Smiling. Learning. Thriving. First, there were no side effects. She excelled beyond her peers. Reading at 2, solving equations at 6. Her immune system was impeccable. She never got so much as a cold. Her skin healed from cuts in seconds. To the outside world, she was just a gifted kid with a quirky father. But Elias knew what simmered beneath the surface. And lately something was changing. She sees things that aren't there. Hears voices. Eyes. He closed his own, shoving the thought away. A soft ping sounded behind him. A voice, tinny and automated, cut through the silence. Motion detected in Sector 3. Unauthorized access. Elias stiffened. Sector 3 was topside. The only person who could have tripped that alarm was Lyra, he breathed. Lyra Rhone sat cross-legged on the floor of her bedroom, the blinds drawn shut. A tangle of books surrounded her, most open to pages about linguistics, brain chemistry, and obscure symbols. Her laptop screen glowed with static. Had been doing that for days. The whispers had returned. At first they were like fragments of dreams, syllables just beyond comprehension. Then they started forming patterns. Not English. Not any language she recognized, but something that pulsed in her blood like a song she'd forgotten how to sing. She drew the symbols again in her notebook. The same ones she had scrawled unconsciously in the margins of her homework. The same ones that appeared on her mirror this morning, even though she hadn't been near it. Something was unfolding inside her. Her skin itched in strange patterns. Not from the outside but beneath. Sometimes her veins seemed to shift. Her pupils dilated in the dark, wide as a predator's. Once, she caught herself answering a question before the teacher asked it. And then there were the blackouts. She never remembered them, but she would wake up in strange places. Standing barefoot in the backyard, or at the foot of her bed clutching objects she didn't recognize. She glanced at her reflection in the mirror. Her hair fell in wild waves, dark with strands of silver she hadn't dyed. Her eyes were a stormy gray today, flecked with green that shimmered faintly when the light hit just right. "Dad knows something," she muttered aloud. "He has to." She stood, pulling on a jacket, and grabbed the keycard she had stolen from his study weeks ago. He thought she didn't notice how he still left late at night, always returning just before dawn, smelling faintly of disinfectant and dust. She had tracked him once, to the desert, to an old base surrounded by silence and mirage. Tonight she would follow him inside. The desert wind howled as she slipped through the breach in the fence. The moon was a sliver above her, barely enough to cast shadows. She moved quickly, crouching low until she reached the steel entrance. The keycard trembled in her hand as she slid it through the scanner. Blick. A soft hiss of depressurization greeted her. The door slid open. Inside, the air was cold and stale. The corridors hummed with latent power. She descended deeper, guided more by instinct than memory. Then she heard footsteps. She ducked behind a pipe cluster just as a man rounded the corner. Lyra Rhone. His face was older than she remembered, lined with regret and weariness. He walked with a slight limp, the result of an old lab injury. In his hand was a data tablet, its screen glowing faintly. She followed him silently, past signs that read restricted and authorized person only. They entered a massive chamber. And there, floating in the center, was the impossible. An alien. It was the stuff of nightmares and wonder. And somehow familiar. Lyra gasped. Elias turned sharply, startled. "Lyra!" His voice cracked. "What are you doing here?" She stepped into the light, eyes locked on the floating figure. Her hands trembled. "You lied to me," she said, voice tight with shock. "What is that thing? Why does it feel like it's inside my head?" Elias took a step forward. His expression shifted. Grief, fear, guilt. "You weren't supposed to see this," he said. "Not yet." "Why am I changing?" she demanded. "Why do I hear voices? Why does this thing feel like it knows me?" He looked at her for a long time, then sighed. "Because," he said quietly, "you're more like it than you are like me." The unveiling. Lyra stared at the alien figure suspended in fluid, her breath catching in her throat. The longer she looked, the less foreign it seemed. Her heart pounded, not in fear but in recognition. "You spliced it," she whispered. "With me." Elias Rhone looked smaller than she'd ever seen him. His hands hung at his sides, fingers twitching. "It was never supposed to go this far." Lyra's voice cracked. "What am I?" Elias turned slowly, tapping a command into the data tablet. Lights dimmed. The containment unit's glass turned opaque. "I wanted to protect you from the truth," he said. "Not for your sake but mine. I was afraid of what you might become. Of what I had done." She stepped back, shaking her head. "Start talking. Everything." He gestured to a bench tucked against the wall of the chamber. Lyra didn't sit. Elias exhaled and spoke with clinical precision, as if retreating into the language of science could spare him the guilt. "When your mother died, I unraveled. She was the tether holding me back, the moral compass I ignored when it suited me. I'd spent years studying specimen V. Its DNA had dormant coding, locked strands like ciphers. I discovered one that activated in proximity to human RNA. You injected me," she said, "when I was a baby." He nodded. "I told myself it was for science, a leap for humanity. But the truth is, I couldn't bear to lose anything else. I wanted to make you indestructible." Lyra's fingers curled into fists. "You made me into an experiment. I raised you. I loved you," Elias said. "But yes, you were a prototype." Her voice shook with fury and fear. "What is happening to me?" Elias hesitated. Then, "The fifth strand is no longer dormant. Something stress, age, external stimuli woke it. Your biology is rewriting itself. You're becoming something new. Something alien," she said almost to herself. "Not entirely. The hybridization was meant to balance both genomes. But the alien part, it's older, stronger, has memories, a genetic memory like instinct, only deeper. Lyra swallowed hard. I remember stars, planets I've never seen, symbols I know but never learned. You're not just remembering, Elias said. You're resonating with something. I don't know how, but you're syncing with their consciousness. Their network. Before Lyra could reply, the chamber lights flickered. Then alarms blared, sharp rhythmic pulses echoing through the sublevel. Elias turned toward the terminal. His expression hardened. They've found us. Who? Lyra asked. Division 7. He yanked open a concealed panel, revealing a narrow maintenance corridor. Move. Now. They ran. Metal grated underfoot. Sirens pulsed in time with Lyra's heartbeat. Division 7 had always been a shadow in Elias's rearview. The black-budget branch of military intelligence had funded Project Chimera in its early days, until the ethics board torpedoed it. But even after the project was buried, Elias knew the division kept watching, waiting. They wanted control of the alien, Lyra. As they reached a lift platform near the old security hub, a burst of static filled the air. Lyra's knees buckled. A shriek echoed inside her skull, not sound but signal. Something ancient, beckoning. Are you okay? Elias asked, steadying her. She nodded, though her vision blurred. It's calling me. From below. He hesitated, then keyed in a manual override. What are you doing? She demanded. There's a vault. Beneath sublevel F. The alien tech, it's still active. Somehow I think you can interface with it. Why would we go deeper? Because if they capture you, it's over. You think what I did was bad. They'll carve you apart for answers. The lift descended with a groan, vanishing into a shaft lit only by blinking red emergency lights. As they dropped, Lyra clutched the railing, breathing heavily. It's not just memories, she murmured. It's a presence. Like I'm not alone in here. Elias said nothing. He stared at the floor. The vault looked nothing like the rest of the base. Its walls were smooth, seamless, constructed from a metal that pulsed faintly like breathing skin. A triangular doorway opened without a sound as they approached, reacting to Lyra's proximity. Why is it responding to me? She whispered. You're a key, Elias said, voice hushed. A living code. Inside, the air was still, cold. A pedestal rose from the center of the chamber, and around it, holographic glyphs floated, rotating slowly. Lyra stepped forward. The symbols flared bright as she approached, and then, a wave of light passed through her. In an instant, her mind fractured. She saw stars collapsing, civilizations crumbling into dust. A council of beings with luminous skin and elongated features. Their voices filled her with knowledge she had no language for. They were dying. Their son had betrayed them. But they had found Earth, and left behind seeds. Not ships, not machines. Gene. They had left it as a failsafe. Sleeper code. You're remembering again, Elias said. No, Lyra whispered. They're talking to me. Right now. Glyphs etched themselves into her arms like burning tattoos, then vanished. Her body trembled, but she didn't collapse. She felt stronger. The ground shook. The distant rumble of boots echoed through the lower halls. They're coming, Elias warned. Lyra turned to him. Her eyes now shimmered with bioluminescent green. I can stop them. He gripped her arm. No. If you use what's inside you, there may be no going back. I'm already changing, she said. I feel it. Whatever's inside me isn't just some upgrade. It's a will. A purpose. The chamber lights brightened as the pedestal opened, revealing a crystalline device, shaped like a heart but metallic, humming with layered sound. What is that? She asked. Elias hesitated. I think it's a neural relay. Memory core. Maybe even an interface for their kind. It's what the DNA in you was designed to connect with. Lyra stepped closer. The whispers intensified. Then the doorway behind them exploded. Mo. Gunfire. A voice shouted. Target acquired. Division 7 soldiers swarmed in black armor, weapons raised. Elias threw himself in front of Lyra. Run, he shouted. But Lyra didn't move. Her veins pulsed with alien light. Her skin shimmered. And then, without touching the crystal, she spoke. Not in English. In their language. The effect was instant. The air warped. Every soldier staggered, clutching their heads. Electronics sizzled and shorted. Then silence. Lyra collapsed to her knees, panting. Her hands glowed. Her pupils had no whites, only green rings of light. Elias knelt beside her. Are you still you? She looked at him. I don't know. A screen on the pedestal came to life. Alien script streamed across it. Elias read the symbols slowly, translating as best he could. It says, the vessel is awakened. Memory unlocked. Integration begins. He looked at her, eyes wide. Lyra, this isn't the end of your change. It's the beginning. The vault of memory. The silence after the psychic blast was too heavy. Lyra sat slumped at the base of the alien pedestal, her breath shallow, her skin flickering like moonlight rippling on water. The glyphs that had burned into her arms were gone, but a faint shimmer remained beneath the surface, like constellations hiding under skin. Elias crouched beside her, one hand on her shoulder. How do you feel? She tried to speak but only managed a hoarse whisper. Like my thoughts aren't mine. Elias's face was drawn. They are. They're just shared now. Above them, the alien holographics swirled in perfect synchrony. Stars, nebulae, the spiral of a galaxy she somehow recognized. A map not of space, but of memory. You said this was a relay, Lyra said, her voice steadier now. But it's more than that. I think it's a doorway. To their history. Elias helped her up. It's reacting to your presence. It's likely storing genetic memory, encoded within the DNA itself. You're waking up thousands of years of experience. Maybe more. Lyra looked at him. I'm not just remembering. I'm them. All of them. And they're me. The pedestal pulsed. A new interface rose, forming mid-air like woven light. Lyra reached for it. Wait, Elias warned. But her fingers were already brushing the interface, and the vault responded. The world tilted. She stood in another place, another time. Not Earth. The sky was violet, its stars unfamiliar. Towering structures of liquid metal gleamed beneath twin suns. Around her, tall beings moved with fluid grace, their bodies luminous, translucent. They were beautiful, terrible, ethereal. She wasn't observing. She was inside one. Memories flowed through her like wind through open windows. Grief. Urgency. The sun of this world was dying. Flares tearing through the atmosphere. No shelter could contain it. No technology could defy it. So they searched. Earth was chosen. Not for conquest, but for seeding. Their final act. Preserve memory, essence, identity. Hide pieces of themselves in the gene pool of a primitive world. Let time bury it. Let evolution disguise it. Let one emerge when the world was ready. She was that one. The memory dissolved. Lyra blinked, and she was back in the vault. Elias watched her cautiously. Where did you go? They were dying, she said softly. Their sun was collapsing. They left pieces of themselves here, encoded in DNA. Not as invaders. As refugees. Elias rubbed a hand over his face. So you're not just a hybrid. You're a resurrection. She nodded. And I think I know why they chose me. Why the strand activated now. More glyphs danced through the air. She interpreted them intuitively now. It's a cycle, she said. The DNA waits for a moment. Some signal. Cosmic alignment. A genetic trigger. When it hits, the memory wakes up. Integration begins. You're becoming one of them, Elias said, almost in awe. No, Lyra whispered. I'm becoming all of them. Hours passed in that buried sanctum. Division 7 hadn't returned. Perhaps stunned, perhaps regrouping. But Lyra could feel them, like shadows at the edge of her new senses. She was no longer just seeing or hearing the world. She was reading it. Elias worked at the console, parsing alien data through a translation algorithm. There's a deeper level, he said. A buried core the memory relay refers to as the Covenant engine. That might be the source of the genetic signal. Lyra was already moving toward the far wall. I know where it is. She pressed her hand to a hexagonal panel. A new passage slid open with a whisper. They descended into darkness. The chamber below was enormous. The walls were laced with crystalline veins, and at its center floated a black sphere, pulsating with inner light. Around it, figures, preserved in crystalline pods, stood silently. They're here, Elias breathed. In stasis. Lyra approached the sphere. No, they're inside me now. These are just echoes. Copies. Glyphs ignited above the sphere as she neared. She understood them now, fluently. Covenant engine. Final memory bank. Rebirth protocol. Active. Elias backed away. Lyra, if you connect to that. I have to, she said. I need to understand how far this goes. Why they chose me. He looked pained. What if you disappear? What if you become something else entirely? Lyra stepped forward anyway. As her hand met the surface of the Covenant engine, a wave of light exploded outward, and the chamber dissolved. She was everywhere. Her consciousness stretched like light across space. She saw Earth not as a planet but as a node, a vessel humming with embedded signals. She saw other nodes, Mars long dead and silent, Titan resonating faintly, Kepler 452b, glowing with identical patterns. She wasn't the first. There had been others. Failed vessels, corrupted DNA, incomplete awakenings. But she was the first fully realized conduit. And she saw what was coming. A celestial event. Solar flares from Earth's sun, magnified by unknown cosmic phenomena, would trigger a genetic cascade in all humans who carried the dormant alien strand. It would activate in millions. Without guidance, the effect would be chaos, mutation, madness, unless the vessel, the bridge, took control. She snapped back into her body with a scream. Elias caught her as she fell. What happened? What did you see? Lyra's eyes were wide. A solar event. It'll activate all the dormant DNA at once. There are others like me, carriers. But I'm the only one who can stabilize them. He paled. So you're not the end of the project. You're the beginning. She nodded. A catalyst. If I bond with the Covenant engine completely, I can imprint stability into the signal. I can guide the change. But what does that mean for you? Lyra looked at him and smiled sadly. It means I stop being Lyra Rhone. Elias stepped back, horror dawning. No. No, you can't. She placed her hand over his. You didn't just make me, Dad. You raised me. That matters. I know who I am. And I'm choosing what to become. Before he could protest, she turned and stepped into the sphere. Her body dissolved. Not in pain but in light. The Covenant engine wrapped around her consciousness like armor. The alien minds inside her fused, aligned. Her DNA became a living beacon, transmitting balance, coherence, peace. From the deserts of Nevada to the jungles of Brazil, to the slums of Mumbai and the tundras of Siberia, carriers felt a surge of warmth in their blood. Headaches ceased. Whispers quieted. Mutation halted. And they understood they were not alone. Back in the vault, Elias watched the engine go dark. The chamber dimmed. He was alone. Then the sphere split open. Lyra stepped out. Not quite human. Not quite alien. Her eyes glowed softly. Her voice layered with harmony. I am Lyra, she said. And I am not finished. Ascension. Lyra stood in the vault's center, reborn. No longer just Elias Rhone's daughter. No longer just human. She was the vessel now. An integration of ancient minds, alien memory, and human soul. Her skin shimmered faintly, not with light, but with potential. She wasn't radiating heat or energy. She radiated possibility. Elias stared at her, equal parts awe and fear. "You came back," he said softly. "I told you I would." He stepped forward, uncertain. "Are you, still you?" Lyra's smile was sad and knowing. "I am. But I'm also more. I remember the taste of a sun before it died. I remember the scent of a planet that sang. I remember loving someone with no name, across time and distance so vast it made galaxies feel like stepping stones. And I remember you, holding me when I was small, teaching me to ride a bike, burning your hands on my fevered skin." Elias looked down, ashamed. "You were trying to save me," Lyra said. "Even when you broke everything doing it." He nodded. "And I did. You're proof." "No," she said gently. "We are." The Covenant engine pulsed behind her, quiet now. Dormant. It had served its purpose. Uploaded her consciousness into the network, synchronized her with the buried code in humanity's genes, and activated the signal that would stabilize the dormant carriers across the globe. Millions would feel the change now, not with terror but with clarity. Their DNA, infused with fragments of the ancient species, would now awaken gently, evolve not fracture. But there was a cost. "They'll know," Elias said. "Division 7. World governments. You just lit a beacon across the whole biosphere." Lyra turned, and something flickered in her gaze. Resolve. "They already know." As if on cue, the chamber rumbled. Dust drifted from the ceiling. The wall display flared to life, broadcasting a single, grim message. "Unauthorized transgenic activation detected. Initiate protocol. Terminus." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "They're going to erase the entire facility." Elias looked up, stricken. "With us still inside." "No," she said calmly. "They won't get the chance." Outside the vault, Division 7 mobilized. Gunships hovered above Area 51. Drone swarms spiraled into the desert sky. Tactical teams in next-gen armor converged on the buried heart of the base. At the command center, General Maeve Corrin watched the energy readouts spike off the charts. "This isn't containment anymore," she muttered. "This is a god waking up." One of her techs turned pale. "Ma'am, global genetic signatures are shifting. We've confirmed over 8 million partial synchronizations, so far. All matching the Chimera strain." Corrin gritted her teeth. "Then we go nuclear. Blast the site. Scramble the orbital platform if we have to." "Ma'am, what if she's stabilizing them? What if she's helping?" Corrin's voice was cold. "We don't gamble with extinction." Underground, Lyra and Elias ran. Hallways that once buzzed with lights now glowed with her presence. The alien metal was responding to her commands, restructuring the very architecture of the vault as they moved. "How are you doing that?" Elias asked. "I'm not sure," she said. "The architecture is semi-sentient. It's listening to me." "And where are we going?" "To the surface," she said. "But not to escape." They arrived in a chamber neither had seen before. It looked like a launch bay, but for something not quite a ship. A living structure rested at the center. It pulsed with soft breath, a cocoon of dark metal and bioorganic latticework. "What is that?" Elias breathed. Lyra walked up to it and laid her palm on the surface. The cocoon split open, revealing a cockpit surrounded by neural conduits. "It's a transport," she said. "But also a transmitter. A beacon amplifier." "For what?" "For my final broadcast." As Lyra settled into the seat, the structure closed around her. It didn't trap her, it embraced her. The alien systems fused with her consciousness instantly. They saw maps, language, emotions encoded as color. Above ground, the strike had begun. Missiles descended. The sky turned white. Silence. The detonation froze mid-air, suspended like a paused dream. Inside the amplifier, Lyra had stepped outside of time. Her thoughts moved faster than light. She reached every mind with the carrier gene. Millions of people, projecting calm, balance, understanding. She didn't control them. She connected them. Shared memory, shared purpose. And to the others, those watching with fear and violence, she offered one last message. We are not a threat. We are your future. And we remember. The missiles dissolved into light. The sky returned to blue. And all over the world, people began to dream in alien starscapes. Lyra's body glowed white-hot within the amplifier. Elias stood outside, shielding his eyes, watching her silhouette disappear into brilliance. "Lyra!" he cried. And then silence. The cocoon split open again. But Lyra was gone. Only a single crystal remained, shaped like a teardrop. He picked it up trembling. Inside the crystal, starfields pulsed. And a faint echo of her voice spoke, not aloud, but inside his mind. "I'm still here, Dad. In them. In you. In everything." 2 weeks later, the world had changed. Quietly. There were no monsters. No mutated horrors. Just understanding. A new generation was beginning to speak in dreams. Languages they'd never learned. Knowledge they'd never studied. They called it the Merge. And Lyra Rhone, once disgraced scientist, was now its reluctant prophet. He stood before the UN Science Coalition in Geneva, holding the crystal. "This is not alien invasion," he told them. "This is restoration. Reconnection. Our DNA has always carried echoes of something greater. This just woke it up. And my daughter gave herself to guide that transition." One of the council members asked quietly, "Where is she now?" Elias held up the crystal. "She's with us. In every one of them. Elsewhere among the stars. Far beyond Earth, in the quiet black of space, a new signal echoed. Seed of memory." Lyra's consciousness, riding the beam of the amplifier, reached worlds long dead. Worlds sleeping. The ancient minds inside her remembered. And now, so would the galaxy. Lyra smiled through 1,000 stars. She was not alone. She had never been alone. And the story was just beginning.